You know, people ask me that a lot, Donnie, about was it difficult to sell BET, and the answer is no. And the reason is because when I started BET, I had a partner who helped me start the business in terms of the money he put into it.
John Malone?
John Malone, president of, at that time, one of the largest cable companies in the country. And of course, you needed cable to carry your cable programming, and without it, you wouldn't get the audience. So John invested with me. Quick story. So John, he was on the board of the cable industry. I got a job working as a lobbyist for the cable industry. And I met him, and he said, Bob, if you ever have an idea, come talk to me. I said, sure, you know, I thought it was just a conversation. But when I thought about the idea of starting BET, and by the way, BET's as an idea was not so much so original, and you'll notice, but it was an extension of what black content was and how it was distributed. You know, radio, there was plenty of black radio stations.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And so black people got radio music, record music off of radio stations. There was several black magazines, John Johnson of Ebony and Jet being the two most well-known, Essence, and even Black Enterprise. So black people were getting content. They just weren't getting it on a nationwide basis controlled by black folks. And that was what how BET differentiated itself from everything else. So when John Malone came to me and said, Bob, you got an idea, I was basically an extension of print, except it was video. An extension of a radio station, but it was video. And so by putting all that together made it happen. So I went to John, and the cable industry was growing into the big cities. He had cable systems, so he said, yeah, I'll back you. And I said, John, he said, Bob, how much would you need to start BET? And I said, John, I'm gonna need $500,000. This is back in 1980.
Wow.
$500,000. Which to me was all the money in the world. So, you know, I grew up in a small town in Freeport, Illinois, 9 or 10 kids. Town got 30 million people, 10% black. So you assume there are 3,000 black people in the whole town of Freeport. So I went in and I said, John, I need $500,000. He said, Bob, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna buy 20% of your company for 180, and I'm gonna loan you the other 320. So that gives you your $500,000, your $500,000. And then he said, Bob, I'm gonna buy 20% and loan you 30 to give you the whole thing. And I'm gonna be 20% owner, and you're gonna be the 80% owner.
Wow.
I said, John, that's a deal. What John didn't know at the time, if he'd reversed the numbers and said, I'll be 80, you'll be 20, I said, John, that's a deal. So it's a true story. So I'm sitting there for we spent about 35 minutes talking about how I was going to do this and how his cable systems would carry the program. I said, John, I don't know anything about running a business. I'm serious. I went to public affairs school, international affairs school at Princeton and at the University of Illinois History. I didn't go to Wharton School or Harvard or any of the other business schools.
Wow.
Now, by this time I had the check. He wrote me the $500,000 check before asking this question. I said, John, I never run a business. What advice can you give me? He said, Bob, get your revenues up, keep your costs down. That's why you didn't get paid a lot. He said,
thanks, John.
Keep your costs down. So anyway, that's what, so he wrote me this $500,000 check, 30 minutes, gave me a little piece of paper about, 2 paragraphs, and off I went to start BET. So getting to the point of why I didn't buy, because when John invested with me, he invested in me believing in me. So one day, because he kept putting money in until we broke even, and I asked him, I said, John, why didn't you kept putting money, put it in his debt. The debt got paid back over time. I said, John, why didn't you put the money in as equity ownership, and you would have acquired more ownership of BET? Mm-hmm. He said to me, he said, Bob, I always knew you would work harder for yourself than you would for me. So that's how the business, so when we sold the business to Viacom, the people on MTV and VH1, the business sold for about $4 billion. You know, John never sold a share, so he got his 20% plus, and I got my 80% plus. So really, when you think about it, Donnie, John Malone, had he reversed the numbers, it would have been a completely different financial business. So after he stayed on the board for 20 years and stayed as chairman, at some point people want to, you know, return on their value, get a exit, so they can go do other things. And plus the other thing he said to me, he said, Bob, at some point I'm going to want to cash out. And he said, I know you have 2 kids and they're really great kids, but I don't want to work with your kids. I like them, but I want to work with you. So whenever I got to leave, you got to make it so we leave where each one of us get the value that we created. And so I owed him that as an investor and basically the guy who put the first capital. I owed him to give him a maximum return. So that's why I felt I had to sell the business at the highest value because of my partnership with John Malone. And to this day, we're still friends and good relations. He's invested with me in other businesses as well. And the other is, I looked at BET from the start as a business, not a family heirloom that would be passed. I looked at it as a business. And even in terms of the black community, because a lot of folks in the black community gave me a lot of negative reaction because of BET. Mainly because of the videos. And not only the fact that we played a lot of videos, almost everything was videos, but also because we didn't delve into deep social, cultural, political programming. We just didn't do it. In fact, when I started BET, and every time I talk to a lot of white folks and I say, oh, I'm starting this thing called Black Entertainment Television, almost to a person, they'd come back, oh, that's a great idea, Black Educational Television. They just couldn't imagine that I would take this opportunity of a new technology of cable and use it for entertainment purposes. They wanted it to be an educational, cultural, reach out to black folk kind of thing in a way of social renewal and social redemption. And that was not the way I started BET. I started as a business based around a music video model.
And I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get to in selling it. You know, you give that up where you don't control that, especially to Viacom. It's like it's no longer black owned. And, you know, and I always felt like, I don't know that I would ever sell it because, you know, for me, it would be that family heirloom. It was on the past. But I look at it and go, well, but Bob's a businessman. This is what Bob does. And I think that it's also important for this reason, because that moment created our first black billionaire. We need to see that. That's important too. So all the criticism that some people gave, you know, for selling it, you know, the other side of it is that this is something that's very important for us to see as a people.
Yeah, well, you know, to me the criticism was not so much, I think to some extent, it wasn't so much a reflection on BET, the entity. It was an emotion about the fact that we were the only one of a kind. Had there been 3 or 4 BETs or versions of BET, like there's TV One and BET, I think the criticism would have been sort of broad brushed across all of us. How come you guys don't do this? How come you got? Well, we were the only game in town.